Hi folks, welcome back to Game Geeks. I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Today's episode we are reviewing the science fiction companion for the Savage Worlds game system. As of the time of this viewing, the Savage Worlds companion will be going out for pre-order later this week. So it will, if you're watching this, it is either already available for pre-order or will be very shortly, depending on how quickly we can get this episode up. Along those lines, this is one of the companion series for the Savage Worlds game system. We've already reviewed fantasy, horror, and the Supers companion. Now, the sci-fi companion, which I have in the form of a PDF, which I've already printed because it's that awesome, provided to me by the very kind folks at Pinnacle Entertainment for review purposes, this covers a lot of ground. One of the more difficult things about science fiction, in my opinion, is you have to hit a lot of bases with any of your overall genre books. With fantasy, let's face it, we know what we're doing. Fantasy is about looking backwards. We know what the expectations are, we know what the approximate tech level is, we know what we're going to be doing, and it holds up well based on that knowledge. With science fiction, you're looking forward, and there are a lot more questions. Is there genetic engineering? How does faster than light travel work, if it works? How do we get artificial gravity? What's society like? Are there psionics? Are there magics? Do genetically modified organisms take over the world in a new nation known as Monsanto-stan? That in mind, any sci-fi book has a lot of ground to cover. This particular volume, the Sci-Fi Companion, has almost no fat on it whatsoever. As you read through this, there is not even a whiff of setting here. This is all about tools, all about ideas, mods, etc. for you to use for your game for whatever setting, homebrew setting, based off of a property that you dearly, dearly love, etc., that you feel like doing. For example, as we go through this book, let's say that you're determined to play Farscape. You want to make a Farscape game using Savage World. Holds up nicely. What can you do with this? Well, for the races, you can build your Luxons, your Delvians, your Kalish, and all of the, you can add in, subtract. The main thing to remember is with any conversion, go for the spirit, not for all the little picky details. Also, going beyond characters, you have things like new edges and new hindrances. Gear, of course, very important for any science fiction setting. What are your gizmos? From powered armor to spaceships to robots to new weapons. All of these things are options that you have for a sci-fi game. You have specific setting rules. How hard do you want to push the hard vacuum will kill you button? Hacking rules. Now, one of the more interesting things about this is the hacking rules actually refer to you to Interface 0, which is at the time of this filming, soon to be forthcoming cyberpunk setting. Review on that in the near future. Again, also for Savage Worlds, how cyberware can work. And then beyond just this is your ship and here's what it can do, it gets away from some of the everything moves at the speed of plot that a lot of us GMs like to use because, let's face it, we're lazy. One of the things this really gets into for you is how big is your ship? How much fuel does it carry? How much provisions can it carry for the group of people? What sort of widgets do you want your ship to have? All of this based on its size. So everything from small, which is your average fighter, to a small shuttle, all the way up to a gargantuan, which is your battleship, your carriers, your command carriers, or your Scarran dreadnoughts. A few more vehicles are listed, then you get into travelers and xenos, which are the type of people and critters you are likely to run out into deep space. Some of these are what you would expect. Some of these are downright terrifying. I point to the Decapitator as one of the more fearsome things I've seen in a game for quite a while, which is essentially a large gorilla, which instead of forward hands, it has two very large, very sharp bone blades. And it hangs upside down for a tree and waits for you to walk underneath so it can show you why it's earned its deed name there. I love the completeness of this book. I love the fact that you can squeeze in any science fiction setting you can well imagine out of these rules. Star Wars, Farscape, as I've mentioned. You could do Battlestar Galactica. You could do any major property you enjoy or one of your own creation. Do you want to do planetary romance, a la the Mars books? There you go. You have a lot of options for that. And you have even more that come out of this book. If I could point to anything I think the book was a little lacking in, I think it would probably be that there weren't more rules on expanded psionics. But as I thought about that, if you go back and look at the new Savage Worlds Deluxe rules, it gives you a pretty broad base set there already of things that you can do with your psionics that make it different from, say, magic or miracles. And outward from there, if you have any other Savage Worlds books at all that have powers in them, cut and paste psionics into that and you're good. You could have your psionic monks in deep space, if you really wanted to, for a more kung fu in around Neptune sort of feel, as Kwai Chang Kang in his power armor wanders around looking for things to do and people to beat up. Sci-fi companion for Savage Worlds. It's been a long-awaited expansion of the Savage Worlds rules with a lot of specialty toward the speculative fiction, science fiction sort of approach. I think it's been well worth the wait. This has been one of my favorite things to read in recent memory. And it's been a lot of fun. And it's sort of like, oh yeah, I remember how that works. Or, oh wow, how can I throw a giant crab at them in a game and have it look like something out of a very weird darkness video? For Game Geeks, I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Good game, good gaming.